Okay, today we're going to be talking about writing and presenting offers. In this packet that I have here, we've got an MLS sheet, duties owed, buyer broker agreement, broker compensation and compliance fee document, wire fraud, and the residential purchase agreement form. So with that, we are going to go over and talk about, after, like last week, we talked about selling the home, showing the home. This week we're going to talk about finding one and writing an offer on that. So in this package, you're going to have the MLS sheet. This is going to give you information about your property. You're also going to pull the tax record. Tax record is found in the MLS. When you pull this sheet up, at the top you're going to have icons. It says tax record. Pull that tax record because it will have all the information about the property, the name, the address, when they purchased, what the sales price was, when they purchased it. All of that stuff is going to be on that tax record, but you're going to need that to fill out the whole residential purchase agreement.
So should we just go ahead and plan on printing the tax record also then?
Not when, I don't, unless I'm going to get ready to write an offer,
Okay.
because otherwise it's extra paper. You don't need the tax record for every, because 90% of the homes you show, you're not going to ever, it's never going to go anywhere.
Okay.
So it's just, you don't need to know about it until you're ready to actually write the offer. Okay? So, with that, who knows what's the first paper that we need our buyers to sign? Yoo-hoo! Thank you, everyone. We have not drilled that into your head enough, but it is that very first one. It's the duties owed. It's the duties between what you are saying that you are going to provide to your client. This is not a listing agreement. This is not a buyer broker agreement. This just states, these are my duties as a licensed realtor. Okay? And it also has a spot down here that says I may or may not work for both sides. Now, myself, I never do dual agency. I don't ever work for both sides. I don't feel that it's fair. In this state, we are allowed to do it. In 20 years, I have not. I don't feel that it's right, don't want to do it. Use your judgment. While you're on the mentee program, I strongly suggest not attempting that. It becomes a very gray area and opens yourself up for lawsuits if you don't really know what you're doing. But what I do is, you know what? I get a listing, somebody makes an offer, wants to make an offer, and they don't have an agent. I say, you know what? I have somebody that can help you out. I'm going to refer them to them. I call that agent and say, hey, I've just referred you a buyer. I want X amount as a referral fee. So I'm still getting paid. I'm taking the liability off myself. But just with that, you're going to have the mark, may or may not. That's whether they allow you to represent both sides or not. And then you're going to have them sign, date, and time that. And that is it. Okay. Now, who knows? One went quick. The broker. Who's the broker we're putting in there?
Tim.
Nope.
No, it's
Mark Otero.
Mark Otero.
So we have Realty One Group. Mark Otero is our Nevada broker. Mark Otero is the one that's going to sign your documents. He's
broker.
Yeah, broker. So Mark Otero, and then his license number. If you don't have it, we can get it for you, but it's on the Facebook. It should be in all the white pages in your Rev-Up book, but that will always say Mark Otero and his broker license number, okay? And then when you're filling out the RPA on the second to the last page, all your information, broker is Mark Otero, okay? Tim can sign for it, but it always has to say Mark Otero's name, okay? Mark Otero. All right. So with that was the duties owed. So we're going to move on to the buyer broker agreement. Now, whether you've heard me talk on it or not, everybody does a buyer broker agreement a little different, but it's pretty standard. I, in 20 years, have always used my buyer broker agreement. I have a listing agreement when I list a home. I have a buyer's agreement when I sell a home. And what this does is it just secures my commissions. And it says these are my duties, and for these duties I get paid X amount of money. But again, it says whatever the seller doesn't pay me, you guys will pay the rest. I'm not collecting what the seller's paying me and this amount from them. I mean, I could, there's a spot for that. I don't. I just say, hey, I get this amount. However much the seller's gonna pay me, if they don't pay me all of it, then the rest will be, you as the buyer. So what you do is you're going to fill out your client's name at the top, and then the dates that it starts. Again, I usually do a 6-month. It all depends on your market. Right now we have a slower market, but not extremely slow, so you're probably going to get somebody within 2 to 3 months from start to finish, boom, done. If they are out-of-state clients, I always do a year. And the reason being is I don't know when they're coming back into town. They say, oh, I'm going to come once a month, or I'm going to come every other week. Something happens. Next thing you know, it's 3 weeks. And then like, wait a minute. And then the whole, you're out of your buyer broker agreement. Then you got to re-present it, have them re-sign it. It's just a difficult thing, you know, to get through, because a lot of people are uncomfortable, agents-wise, our realtors are uncomfortable with presenting it. So why would you want to have to do it multiple times?
I could be more uncomfortable not presenting it.
Yes, and it is, because you do have some clients that accidentally try to kick you out of the deal. You'll be showing a home and there's a seller that won't leave, and so you're walking around and you're walking with the wife, and the husband's in the kitchen, and next thing you know, that seller's like, hey, if you get rid of your realtor, I can take out money, you know, and take off money from the top. And he's like, oh, that's great. Okay, hey, no, we're not interested in, not thinking anything. And then a week later, they tell you, you know what, we're not going to buy a home. And then you find out that they're already under contract, or it's closed. Sometimes you don't find out until it's closed and recorded. But you got to watch. You have to look. You're not going to get an alert that the property is sold, you know, so you have to go, I wonder what's going on with that client. Like, did they really not? So I go to assessors from time to time, and I start Googling clients that first, last name, wife's name. If they put it in a trust LLC, you might not ever find it. But, you know, it happens. But then I find out, and I'm like, you know, hey, you have a buyer-broker agreement. I see that you closed on the home. Do you think it's the buyer's obligation? Do you think it's the listing agent's obligation to pay you? Buyer. You made the contract with a buyer. Just like if you have one of these signed and that buyer goes to a new home, new homes are, you know, hit or miss, but most of the time I have no problems with the new homes, but it's not the builder's obligation to pay you. It's the buyer's obligation, because the buyer, they said, I don't care that you have this contract signed. You didn't come in with them on the first showing. You know, like, that's between you and your buyer. So you have to go after your buyer. And again, if you have a buyer that signs this with you, and you're showing them homes, and then they stop viewing, but yet you're sending them emails, and they're responding to texts, and then the texts slow down, and you keep trying, and now they're ghosting you, and you're like, what happened to them? Well, they got another realtor, and that realtor sent them sold them a house. And you're like, wait a minute, that's my client. You can definitely go to small claims court or whatnot and bring that listing agent or that buyer's agent in as well. And then the judge is going to ask, who has the buyer broker agreement signed? Okay, if you both have them signed, what's your date and what's your date? Okay, they were first. Now, just because you have it signed, don't think that you're obligated to get that. You have to show that there was no broken chain of events also.
Constantly kept in contact.
That you did your part. Now, it could be questionable. Some judges are like, well, you kept trying and they didn't respond. They gave up on you. Okay, but that's not, I kept trying. So you just have to have your defense. He who has things in writing are the ones that win. So just remember, document, called, left a voicemail. You know, if you have a folder, I should have brought my manila folder, but I have these big real estate folders you can get at the division, or the LVR. And it just, on the front, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can fill in. When I open it up, I do a call log. You know, on this date, at this time, call, left a message. This date, this time, talk to them. This date, we talked about this. And then you can do a piece of paper if you have lengthy conversations. If anything happens in there, kind of just jot those notes down. When you go into a court and you're like, I'm pretty thorough with all my notes, guess what? They're not, okay, they obviously wrote notes, you didn't. Like, let's read through the notes. Okay, great. Yes, it looks like you have a case. You won. Boom, done. So just be very thorough in what you do. And remember, text messages do not hold up in court.
So you print them?
You can print them all you want, but they don't, they want to see emails. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're writing things. Just to confirm, this is a conversation that we had. Okay. You know, I've tried multiple times, I can't get a hold of you. Do you want to continue this search? What's going on? You know, like, it looks like you've actively tried to get some information out of them. Okay. But most of the time, people, they're pretty good about it. I have only a couple times that I've had issues with this, and I talked about it when we did our panel, but I had a client, it was a husband and wife, she's a dentist, he was a pilot. For whatever reason, they would not sign a 6-month buyer broker agreement. Just wouldn't do it. And so I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Because I know they had money, they had cash, I knew they had it. I'm like, they're good. I ended up selling them 3 homes and then one for their son or daughter, I don't remember, years ago. They're loyal clients. They just did not want to sign this. So what I did do was, on the additional terms on the page 3, I would put something in there, and I don't have the exact verbiage on this one, but this buyer broker agreement pertains to only the following homes shown on this day. And I would put every single address that I showed them. Okay, you can buy, if you don't want to use me, that's fine. You can buy any other home, but if you're going to buy any of these 3 homes that I've listed here, I'm going to be due a commission.
So that's even if they don't sign it because you notated that?
Yeah, they'll have to sign this, but you'll put it in additional terms and say, fine, and then it's just going to pertain to the homes we're going to view today. And every time I take them out, I'd have a new one with those homes listed. That is the only way they do it. You know, I've never had to take them to court over it because they, you know, we found a home, it was a brand new home, and we did that, and then I went on to sell the other ones. It was no big deal, but for whatever reason, they did not want to sign a 6-month contract. Okay, then you're going to sign it for anything that I take my time to show you. You know, and so that worked for me. It worked for them to get them to sign it. You know, but again, the way I describe it when the thing is coming out here, let me just make sure. When I go to hand this to them, I say, this is my buyer broker agreement. When I take a listing, I have a listing agreement. When I show buyers, I have a buyer agreement. I only take 5 buyers at a time. So with that, those 5 buyers get my 100% loyalty, that my 100% time and attentiveness. It's not saying that I can't show you homes. I'm just letting you know that these 5 buyers that signed this, I have 4 buyers right now. So if you'd like the place of the 5th one, you know, I don't care how many buyers I have at the time. There's only one more spot open. But if you'd like the place of the 5th one, that means you get 100% of my attention. So any of those 5 buyers that call me and they want to go for your homes, if I've scheduled with you, I'm going to have to push you off because these people come first. They're the ones that are loyal to me. I will do whatever. When you're going to get emails in the middle of the night from me, guess what? It's because I'm looking at homes in the middle of the night for you. I will do whatever I need to do to get you a home. And that's my job. I am a 100% agent. I don't have another job. Whether it does, you know, if you do or you don't, just say these are the times that I set aside for my real estate. My job is dedication to you. So with that, I dedicate my loyalty to you. Take this as a loyalty agreement. I'm loyal to you. You're loyal to me. We're going to show homes. We're going to view homes. We're going to make an offer. And you're making wonderful memories in your home. So if you want to sign right here on this last page, that would be great. Thank you very much. And you do it with a smile. And you just, if you get used to presenting it and however you want to say it. But Joel, guys, this is an agreement. I need you guys to just sign here because it just talks about my commission. Do you think someone's going to sign that? No. Be very strong in what you're doing. If you don't want to sign it, that's fine. Maybe I'm not the right realtor for you. But if anything changes, let me know. Okay? Have a nice day, guys. And they're, whoa, 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 whoa. If you're willing to walk away, it's because my time is valuable. They will run you ragged most of the time. They will call you on Christmas Eve. They will call you in the middle of Christmas dinner. They will call you whenever I was in the hospital and I had delivered a baby. And they're negotiating because they don't care. They just don't care, guys. They don't think you have a life outside of finding them a home. So with that, I need loyalty. And if you give me loyalty, well, guess what? My phone is on 24 hours a day for you. That's all. You give to them what they give to you. You give them loyalty, they give you loyalty back. That's great. So with that, there's only a few things that you need to fill out. Is this the, okay. This one I have in my hand that I printed out is from 2019. So the new one looks just a tad bit different, but same premise here. And so you're going to fill out, it says line 4 on this one, broker's compensation shall be paid at the time of and as a condition of closing as follows. Buyer agrees to pay broker, select all that apply. I put number 1, the percentage that I want you fill in there. Number 2 is a flat amount. And number 3, whichever is greater between 1 and 2. You know, that's completely up to you, however you want to do it, right? In addition to the compensation, buyer agrees to pay broker X amount as a flat fee of portions of broker's total compensation. That's where you could put your, transaction compliance fee. You can put that in there, but always be careful because this does happen. You think they're qualified, they're going to spend no more than $600,000, and guess what? It gets kicked over to $720 or $710, and next thing you know, you're like, there's another $200 there. Well, you had them sign this. I've got, you could put TBD, to be determined, whatever you want to do in there, because we have a separate form, which is the document storage and compliance, transaction fee form that's got the exact amount for the purchase price that they're doing. So just watch. I've gotten caught up in that sometimes because you never know. You get in these bidding wars and now they're bidding over and now you're like, shoot, it just threw me over into the next bracket. And you've already had them sign it, so guess what? It's coming out of your commission. So whatever, it is, yeah. So, and then right here, buyer agrees to pay such compensation if buyer within, I always put 180 calendar days after the termination of the agreement, the buyer agrees to enter into or purchase, exchange, or option or lease any of the properties that you showed them. So you show a home, they're like, I'm not interested. If they go into contract on any of those properties within 180 days after that, you're still due that commission. You can put 10 days, you can put 30 days, 6 months, because guess what? Sometimes they're like, they talk to that seller and they're like, hey, I'm going to take it off the market. So my listing agent then will go ahead and redo it, thinking they outsmarted us. 30 days, now you lost that commission. No, I showed you that home. I'm the procuring cause. You would not have found that home without me, because I sat up at night looking through every home trying to figure out, does this meet it? Does that have the open floor plan? Does this have the second bedroom? I was researching that. I was doing all of that in my time. So I make sure there's a significant amount of time in between there, but you guys can put whatever you want in there. And then mediation, number 10, you always want to have them initial that everybody agrees to do mediation before going straight to court. We all try to mediate first. And then on this last page, it does say, was that?
Number 20 default.
Yes, so I was reading that one because I got caught up in here. Did I write the wrong thing here? Buyer agrees to pay such compensation if buyer within, I put 3 calendar days after termination of this agree, but it needs to be 180 days again in there. Yep. Because back in the day, it's like how soon do they used to say, how soon do they have to pay you if they're found that they owe you money? So I put 3 in there, and then I was rereading that, and I'm like, that's not what that was asking me again there. Buyer agrees to pay such compensation if buyer within 180 calendar days after the termination of this agreement enters into an agreement to purchase any property shown to you. So it's the same statement as in page 1, line number 48. It's like, why did they do the same thing? I don't understand, but that's okay. So then additional terms is anything that you're going to write in there. And then sign them, date, time. This is not a legal binding agreement unless you have it signed by the broker. Okay? So because you haven't opened anything in SkySlope, this is one of the first documents that you send them. I always just email it to Maria and say, hey, can you please have this buyer broker agreement signed? She gets it signed and emails it back to me. Now it's legal binding, and I immediately send it to my clients. Hey guys, just want to let you know, whenever, because back in the day, we'd have our files full of this, and we'd have to hand write everything, right? Well, now we're uploading everything. They DocuSign it, and they're like, how do I get it out of DocuSign? People get confused. So what I like to do is at the end of my transactions, anything they have signed or dated or timed or whatever, I print out and I give them their closing gift, and I give them an envelope full of all their documents so they don't have to search for it. I give them a little zip drive because they might throw the documents away. You know, however they want to keep it, but they have all of their documents. But with this one and the duties owed, I'll have them sign that. I have them sign this. I have Maria, I send this to Maria. Maria gets it signed, sends it back to me. I put the duties owed, the buyer broker, and I email it. Hey guys, here's those forms I had you sign the other day. Just want you guys to have a paper copy of it. Whether I email it to them or give it to them when I'm showing the homes, I don't care. Sometimes I will bring 2 copies of things, especially this one, and I'll say, hey guys, this is what I'm having you sign today. Here's a paper copy of it. As soon as I get it signed by the broker, I'm going to send it right over to you. People don't like to sign things and you take it all away, and they're like, I don't even know what you just had me sign. So I like to leave paper copies. Unfortunately, I'm probably the most greenest person you're going to find, but I do use a lot of paper. Unfortunately, in this job, you're going to use a lot of paper, but it's to ease the mind of people. So if they want a copy of it, hey, you know what? I don't have a printer on me, but you know what? You want to take a picture of it? I let them just take pictures of it, so then they have it.
There's a scanner, and you can scan it.
And you could.
It'll be this exact paper.
Perfect. Awesome. So however you want to do it, but to ease their mind, because think about it. If somebody had you sign a form and then you're like, what did I just sign? And I have no proof of that. So just do whatever you can to ease their mind.
I have a quick question. You mentioned something about folders from the office.
Yep.
Or is there a fee for those?
Yeah.
Can we just go get them?
Nothing's free in this world.
Yeah. About what this
Yeah.
costs.
So when you go to the LVR, I just bought them too when I was at the education committee. There's 10 of them. They're like $10, $12, $15 for 10 of them.
Well, plus it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. But they're actually, they're long legal size folders. They're manila folders, and they have all of this stuff. The buyer, the seller, the title company, the mortgage, like everything is like, and you don't fill 90% of it out. And then there's a space, there's there and there, and then there's a space in the middle. And I just write MLS number. So then that way when I'm digging through everything, or you write the property address, and you're just like, however you're gonna know. And then when you open it up, it's got a big area, and I write buyer, their both full names, their phone numbers, their emails, the title, the lender, like all of the information. So all I have to do is open it up, see, and call.
Okay.
Because you're gonna have papers everywhere, guys. You're gonna keep them in a folder, but then you're gonna upload some in SkySlope. You're gonna have some over here. Like my purse, unfortunately, guys, most of you guys don't carry anything, but my purse is like, I had to go somewhere the other day, and I had to go to the hospital to see a friend. And I get in there, and I was like, sorry, it's like my office. And he's like, good God. It's like, sorry. It's just because there's just papers upon papers, and every time I have a listing, I have an MLS sheet, and then, like all of this stuff, it's just in there. So if you guys want to get used to carrying something, I don't know.
Got a cheap little briefcase. Because I'm a paper.
Yeah, but then you're carrying so much, so that's
Yeah.
why you'll never see me with a small purse. It's always because everything and my stuff, my daughter's stuff, my husband's stuff, my work, like everything is in there. So, all right. So now we're going to go into the notice of broker compensation and compliance. So with this form goes with every file, whether they're buying or selling. You're going to have, it's your document storage transaction fee, is what I call it. And when I present this to everybody, it says notice of broker compensation and compliance fee. So, do you guys have that one?
Probably, I just don't
Yeah.
know what I'm looking for, I guess.
Just look up here, it says notice of broker compensation.
Okay, found it.
Yep. So with that, the way I present this, I say, pretty much every brokerage has a notice of brokerage compensation and compliance fee. We, by law, have to hold all of your documents for 5 years at the brokerage. I myself hold your documents for 7 years. So if you ever need something, you can come back to us. But by law, our brokerage has to hold them for 5 years. That is what this is. There's also a fee to do a transaction. That is how the brokerages make money, because they monitor everything that we do. Because these are legal binding documents, we have a compliance coordinator that will go through everything and make sure everything is in the right order, date, time, and everything. So that is what this fee pays for. I said ours, it depends on what your sales price is, and here at Realty One, it's $200 for every $200,000 that you sell. So $100 to $200,000, $1 to $200,000 is a $200 fee. And then you'll always have a compliance, or what is it called? It's compliance, I call it a doc storage fee, because it's literally storing all your paper documents for 5 years. And that's always gonna be $200 with every transaction, whether you're buying or selling. Now, if the transaction falls apart, we don't collect it. It's just, we have to hold your file still for 5 years, but we're not collecting it. That this fee does not necessarily have to be paid by you. You can push it to your buyer and seller, and that is what I choose to do. It should not cost me money because you guys decide you want to buy a home. You've hired me to find you a home and negotiate it, but you didn't hire me to pay for your fees. These are the fees that go with it, and these are the brokerage fee. I choose to hang my license at Realty One Group, and this is what our fees are. That is it. Every brokerage has something else, but this is what our fees are here. So I just need you to sign it. That's it.
It's not your buyer's broker
With a smile.
agreement. It's the same thing, right? It's not your buyer's broker agreement?
Well, that was the fee that I said, be careful by putting that in there, because if you go above that, now you're going to be liable for it. But yeah, you could put TBD on there, or you could put the same fee. Yep, but this is the fee that's talking about on there. And then in there, again, you're having them fill this out sometimes when you write the offer. It depends on when you're going to present it. I like to do it when they're filling out the residential purchase agreement, so they are aware of all of their fees up front. Therefore, I don't know who the title company is going to be, because I'm going to write Rock Title in my contract, but the seller might cancel it out. So I just leave this area blank, and I say, guys, these are for the title company. We'll fill that in once our offer gets accepted, because I don't know who title's going to be right now. But these are the fees that it's going to be. It's going to be the 400, the 200 equals 600, and then they just sign it at the
I
bottom.
thought the buyer had the decision to whether they want to use it.
They do. They do have the decision, but doesn't mean that the seller is not going to cancel, counter that out. So there's one that we have agent here. She just listed her condo. She put in the agent-to-agent remarks, title has been started with Rock Title, 30% discount, blah, 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 everything we tell you guys are supposed to write in there. And then she put that in there, and she got an offer, and they put a different title company. So we countered back with a couple of things and put Rock Title back in there. And then there was nothing left to counter, so you can't really just counter title. So there was nothing, we made it so good that there was nothing left to counter, so they just accepted it.
We can't put a 30% discount on Rock
Yeah, and there's verbiage, and I don't know if it's put in here, but at Rock Title, let me see, they have a form that tells you exactly what, yeah, it's not on here. But they have like verbiage that she'll put in additional terms in here that 30% discount, and I'll get to exactly, but 30% discount if escrow is closed with Rock Title, for both sides, if escrow is closed with Rock, something like that. But there's exact verbiage because it's compliant with what they wanted to say. So I'll give you that. And then there's also another statement in there that we always want you to put in there to protect you for their repair request and all of that. So, but we'll go over that as we get closer to that page there. But, all right, so that was that. Then we have wire fraud, which I don't see my wire fraud in here. Do you guys have a wire fraud form in your packet?
Yes.
I don't know why I don't have one. Do you have a wire fraud? Let's see. See, where you have yours? Can I use yours? Okay. It should just say wire fraud, cyber. I don't know why it's not in my package here, because I copied my package to give to you guys, so I don't know why it's not in here. But, okay, so this form, it says wire fraud. And this is really just disclosing there could be wire fraud. And you're just letting them know, because your buyer is going to wire money for their earnest money. Then they're going to wire their down payment. And sometimes what happens is Title would send them, back in the day, Title would send them an email with all the wiring instructions. But before it gets to the buyer, scammers grab it, change it to their bank information, put it back in, and it goes right to that buyer. And the buyer's like, okay, cool. And they go right to the bank, and they wire money to the scammer instead of to Title because it was taken in between. So with that, we started having the buyers call. Hey, Title's going to email you wire instructions. You're going to get that email, and then you're going to call this number, which is the title company. Don't use any number off of the email that you got. And you're going to call the title company, and you're going to say, hi, Jennifer Croft. This is Wendy Schaller. I'm buying this house at 123 Main Street. I just got wire instructions. Can I verify them? And they'll give you an account number and a routing number. You read it to them, and they tell you yes or no. Now, most of them are using a system like Qualia or something like that, which they've taken us out because they were sending it to us and the buyers. And now they're like, let's take the agents out of there. Now let's use Qualia. So it's making sure that there's less people's hands in it, because it could be taken from me, it could be taken from them. So we're trying to just make it go directly to the buyers. So now Qualia is a separate system. They'll get an email where they have to log in, make a username and a password, and everything between the buyer and the title is done through Qualia that they have to log into every time. So if somebody just sends them now wire instructions, they're going to know that it's not true because it didn't go through Qualia first or something. So with that, we're trying as an industry to kind of rein it in, but scammers and fraud, it's just going to happen, and we just got to keep trying to figure out how to keep it at bay. But with it, there's not much to fill out here other than Realty One Group, and then the date that they're going to sign it, and then they're going to sign both of theirs here. So here's that. Thank you. Now we have, that was Wi-Fi, residential purchase agreement. I don't even remember how many pages this is, like 34, I don't know, 40 pages, I don't know, something. All we worry about is what page number one looks like. And then the only form that we need to upload in SkySlope is the signature page. Do not upload all of it into SkySlope.
Oh, so these two are part of...
This is page one and like the second to the last page. The last page is blank.
Is this part of the
Yeah,
residential?
this is the main page, the very first page. I put it in there so you guys knew which form it was, but then there's like 34 pages in between these two. So this is the only page that we need. It's the signature page. So you're going to send them everything or hand them everything. And what I do when I'm sitting in front of them and we're filling it out, like most of it's typed up, but I print everything out. And then I put a paper clip on this and the other 34 pages. And I say, hey guys, this is for you. This is a residential disclosure guide. And what that is when you can't sleep at night, feel free to read that. It's going to tell you where all the airports are, and if there's noise, and there could be mold, and you could live in HOA, and everything that you want to know that could possibly be associated with your house. But I just need you to sign this form to say that I gave that to you. Can you please sign it? Great, that's for you, and I leave that with them. But if I'm doing a like AuthentiSign, I just put it in the mix with everything, and they're just going to keep scrolling because it only brings them to where the yellow dots are where they need to sign. So they're going to scroll past all this, and then boom, sign this one. Then they have it. But it's a very long form that just talks about any disclosures. It's a disclosure form that talks about anything that they feel that they need to know about when they're purchasing a home. All right, so now we have the residential purchase agreement. Okay, so this is the right one. This should be of January 2023. I think that's the most current one. Matt, you know what? I don't think it is actually, but it's the same general idea. Whenever there's a lawsuit or somebody has a dispute about something, that's why it gets longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, okay? So this is always a changing form. So you always want to pull the most recent one. They're pretty good about when they put a new one up, they get rid of the old one. But sometimes you've printed it out and then you haven't filled it out yet, and a month goes by and then you fill this one out and Maria's like, hey, there's a new one. So I can't take that one. So you always just want to not fill these forms out until you're actually ready to submit, because we want the most updated and recent one. But how you fill this form out, this date on the top right corner is the date that pertains to everything that you do. So if you write an addendum or a counteroffer, it says the original date of the RPA. That's this date, not the date they sign. This date is what date it is. They don't care when you sign, because sometimes you'll write it and it'll take 5 days for the seller to respond. They don't care when you responded. They care what date you wrote that contract. So this is the date for everything. Once you go under contract, you open escrow, this is the date. Just remember that. I can't stress that enough. This is the date. Okay, so with that, buyer's names, property address, the unincorporated area of Las Vegas and what county? Clark, Nye, Henderson, what? Well, it's not Henderson, that would be Henderson County, Clark County. But where are you going to get this information? Tax record. Your tax record. So before you write this offer. So let's stop real quick. So we're going to show them homes, right? We just showed them 6 homes yesterday. They call you last night and they're like, you know what? I wanted to make an offer on house number 2. You're like, great. Let me pull the tax record. Let me pull the comps, see what's going on. I'll call you in the morning. And then what you're going to do is pull that information, and then you're going to send this MLS sheet over, well, the other MLS sheet, not this one. This one's not supposed to go to anybody. This agent-to-agent view is not supposed to go to anybody but licensed realtors, because it's got gate codes and private information in there, right? So the one that you give them with the little house on, the picture of the front of the house, still, you're going to send that sheet over to the lender, their lender that you got that pre-approval from. And you're going to say, hey, they want to make an offer on this property. Can you please review it and see if that fits in their range? Because sometimes you're like, oh, the price range works. Yeah, they said, under 500 and it's 500. Great. But the HOA is $480 a month. And he's like, they can't afford that. So it does matter. Their taxes are outrageous. Their taxes need to stay low. Do you have a question, Robert?
Yeah, there's a form you said that has a picture of the house on it. Is that the tax form?
No. So when you're showing homes, and we'll go over that when you come in my office, okay. But whenever we show a home, I print out 2 forms. The agent-to-agent form for myself, because that gives me the codes to get in and everything, and then I print out the brochure, the client brochure view. And it has all of this information pretty much to here, pretty much to here, but it's got a picture of a little house. There's so many different views that you could do, but I like that view because it gives them all this information up here. It gives them all the verbiage, the directions, and it gives them like the room dimensions. It gives them everything. It gives them all the HOA stuff, all on their sheet. But what it doesn't give them is this personal stuff down here. So, because that's the stuff that's private, but it also doesn't give the agent-to-agent remarks. That's only for this one. So with that, I print those 2 forms out. So that form with the picture of the one picture on there, that's what I send the lender. While I'm doing all the comps and everything, the lender's working the numbers and saying, yeah, And I'll say, can you tell me what their payment, or tell them what their payment's gonna be a month for this particular house? Because different areas have different taxes and different interests and insurance, and all of that matters, because that's all how they figure out what their payment's going to be. So with that, I print, I've got this already because I showed the house. Then I print the tax record, and then I'm filling out the RPA. So on that RPA, all of this information is gathered from the tax record. The parcel number, all that kind of stuff you're going to get from your tax record. So then, number 7, on this, okay, the buyer does or does not intend to live in the property. Does mean that it's a primary residence. If you mark does not, that means they are an investor. So keep that in mind. If they're telling you it's a primary residence, I'm going to live in it, but then they have you mark does not, okay, well then that means that they're an investor. They're probably going to have to put 20% down. So people kind of try to trick you, so you have to outsmart them. You're like, you said primary residence, right? So, what's going on here? They're like, oh, it's my primary residence, but then they have 3 other houses. You're like, you're moving out of the 4,000 square foot house into this 1,000 square foot condo. I mean, it could be, but usually that's not the way that it works. Like, what's going on? You got to make sure, because that's fraud, and you don't want to get caught up in that. So if you suspect something, you have to second guess everybody about everything. But okay, so you're going to write on line number 11. It says earnest money. I don't want to steer you wrong, but down here you're going to have on your MLS sheet, you're going to have earnest money that they're asking for. $3,500, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. It's just what they're asking. If they're asking $10,000 and you decide to put $1,000, I can guarantee you that house is not, your offer's not going to get accepted. So don't do that. But you also don't necessarily have to put the whole earnest money down. I focus on listings. I appreciate when they do that, because if I have 2 offers that are exactly the same, and one's putting up the $5,000 I asked, and the other one's putting up $2,000, I'm going to say, you don't have that cash. You don't feel that you're 100% invested in this, because what is your earnest money? Your earnest money is saying, I wholeheartedly love this house, and here's my loyalty. I'm going to put my $5,000 because I'm putting it at risk. If I do something wrong, I could potentially lose that money. So the more money they put up, the more solid they look, because they're that much more interested, okay? So they're not giving it away. That money is going to sit at title. It goes right into title once we open escrow. And title's a neutral third party. They're not here for the listing, and they're not here for the buying. They're neutral, and they just take everything and they meld it all together, right? So once you open escrow, usually within 48 hours, that money gets wired to title and escrow, and it just sits there. Can't be released unless both parties agree to release it. Where is it releasing? Is it going back to the buyer? Is it going to the seller because we closed? Like, where is it going? So the more money you put up, the more solid that you look. But also, some people are ridiculous. They want $10,000 on a $200,000 condo. You're like, that's like my whole down payment. Like, why would I do that? Like, it doesn't make sense. So usually you'll see, $3,500 to $5,000, and it's usually, under $300,000. And then from $300,000 to $500,000, it's like $5,000 to $8,000. And then from $800,000 on up, it's usually like $10,000 or more, So there's no set price. That's just whatever you want to put up. Because again, and I have collected buyers' earnest monies. When they default, they're like, okay, well, we just couldn't get it. We went out and bought it. My buyers bought a car, so sorry. Can we get our earnest money back? No. You defaulted, you're out of everything, and we just took the house off the market for 3.5 weeks. Now we have to start back over and hope that we can get somebody. So now they have to pay their mortgage. So they're going to use your earnest money to pay their mortgage. That's what they're going to do. That's when you go after it. But if it's no fault, I've had, in 20 years, I've had people die as a husband and wife. The husband had died 2 days prior to closing. I had another guy get arrested and lose his job. I had another lady who 1 week before went to RC Willey and opened up a credit card and bought all new furniture for her downstairs. And she was so excited, and she came to me, she's like, oh my God, I just got all new furniture. And I was like, we already had this discussion. Like, what did you do? She lost the loan, lost the house. Now she got a whole bunch of furniture she didn't need. But it took her a year to recoup. I've sold her 2 houses since then. But you have that discussion up front. Okay, you are pre-approved, and a lot of times they'll get pre-approved for $500,000, but really they want their payment right around $350,000. So they think, oh, that's just extra money I have. No, Don't buy a car, don't open credit cards, don't go on a shopping spree. You are not to touch your credit. Don't pay any more, don't pay any less. Don't open a payday loan. I had a husband and wife that the wife says, no more giving money to the kids. No more. They had $100,000 in the bank they were going to put down on their house. We were 3 days from closing. And the one daughter said, Dad, I need $50,000. So he goes, doesn't want to tell the wife, and opens up a payday loan 3 days before closing. And the lender calls me. I don't know this. And he's like, what is with the payday loan? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, the husband just signed for a payday loan. And I was like, what are you talking? They have $100,000 in the bank. I know this. And sure enough, the husband and wife thought they were going to get divorced over it because she's like, no more. I told you, no more for the kids. And it just happened. And so he ended up paying it back. They had to show proof to the lender. It delayed us like a week, but we got it but he could have lost they could have lost their house over something. And they had the money. They're still married, actually. Yes, I just talked to him last week. But it happens, and so anything can happen. So until the deal is closed and done, don't expect a paycheck, guys, because it sometimes just doesn't happen. But so with that, you're going to put your earnest money. The second one, B, additional deposit to be placed in escrow on or before. That's if they were asking for $10,000. You say, I'll put $5,000 right now, and I'll put the additional deposit, say, after we get our home inspection. So you'll get through the whole $10,000, but $5,000 now, $10,000 after that, or who knows what's happening. But why people want to do that? Honestly, I don't even think I've ever done that. But there could be instances you need that, like, hey, I've got $5,000 now, and they're getting paid again, and then they get or a settlement, and they'll have it on the 30th. Who knows? But then that's how you could do that, right? Then C, this agreement is contingent on the buyer qualifying for a loan. If they're getting a loan, that's where you put what the amount of the loan is, okay? Not how much the sales price is. It's the loan. And then you mark cash, conventional, VA, or whatever. Then this agreement is contingent on assuming a loan. I've never done an assumption because of the market that I've been in the last 20 years, but right now we have some really good loans that are 2-3%. And if they go get a regular loan, it's going to be 6, 7, 8%. So it's enticing to assume one of these 2% loans. So that's where you would use that line. Okay, if you're ready to do that, you come talk to Tim or myself, but probably Tim, because again, I've never done one of those, and I don't want to instruct you the wrong way. Just because I've been in it 20 years, guys, does not mean I have all the answers. And that's what I need you guys to understand, is that people that are like, I need to know everything before I start. You will never know everything, because every transaction is different. And I'm never going to say I know everything or I've experienced everything, because every day there's something new. I'm like, what is going on over there? Just different things happen. So don't feel bad. And if you don't have the answer, you know what, great question. Let me get that for you and I'll get back to you. And you'll hear me sometimes go, that's a broker question. I'm not a broker. I'm a sales manager, realtor for 20 years, but I am not a broker, because I don't have those, that extra training that they have had. But I have 20 years experience in there. So there's things that people think that they might know and they might talk upon that they don't. Don't be one of those agents. If you don't know, just admit, you know what, I don't have that exact answer for you, so let me get that for you. I'll find out. Let me call my broker. That's a good one. And then always blame the broker. You know what, my broker's requiring that this needs to be signed. I need you guys to sign it. Don't feel bad about doing that, because you call us and say, hey, I told them that my broker, okay, great. Yep, that's a form that we do require. We're not going to lie to them, but we're going to say we strongly urge our realtors, our realty one, to sign these forms, have these forms signed. So we will stand behind you if we think that but don't try to make us do something fraudulent either. Okay? So with that, that's assuming. And then there's a promissory note. Again, you would fill that in there if you're doing a promissory note. Haven't done one of those either. Then balance of purchase price, and then total price. So what you're going to do is these numbers have to total up. Okay, your earnest money plus your new loan plus your down payment has to total this bottom line, which would be the sales price. So just make sure you do your math, and then you always want them to sign initial. Again, if they miss it, if they miss initials, it's going to get kicked back. And if you miss the initial, you send it to them, they miss the initial, they send it back to you. You send it to the seller, they sign it, they don't notice it, you upload it in SkySlope, guess what? Maria's going to say nope. Now the buyers have to sign it and initial, then you have to send it to the seller, they have to initial that they saw that the new initial, and then and it's a whole bunch of paperwork going around, ring around the rosy. So we want to make sure everything's done ahead of time. So with that, now we're going to go into page 2, additional terms. New loan application. If you've got a pre-approval already from your lender, you can put 0 in there or done, whatever. I always like to put 2 days, because I have had some buyers that were looking for a house for 2 months. They got pre-approved, and then they're like, you know what, I really don't want to use that lender anymore, but that's the pre-approval letter that I have. And all of a sudden, a house comes available tomorrow, and they don't have a new pre-approval letter. So what that says is, if you read it, new loan application, within 2 business days of acceptance, buyer agrees to submit a completed loan application to the lender of buyer's choice. So it's giving me 2 additional J's in case my buyer wants to change lenders. Usually they don't, but it has happened. So I always put 2, but you could put done or 0, it's up there. Appraisal contingency. If I'm representing the buyer, any of your contingencies you want to try to get as many days as possible. But when I'm representing the seller, I'm going to counter those out, okay? So what's a happy medium? If you're doing a 30-day escrow, I like 17 days of appraisal and 21 days loan. 25 at the max. But if you notice in here, I put 17 and 27. Again, because that's what Tim says, put 27. So everybody does their contracts differently. Now, if there's a reason you need 27 days for a loan contingency, then just say, because I'll call you as a listing agent, I'll say, why do you need 27 days? But I'm also, when you submit this offer, I'm like, thank you so much, confirmed, I've received it. And then I turn around and call your lender, hey, we have mutual clients that just made an offer on my property, on my listing. I would like to shorten these contingency timeframes. What's the shortest time you can do appraisal? What's the shortest time you can do loan? I get it from the lender. When you're filling these out, you should have already talked to your lender or the buyer's lender on how many days he needs. Because if they're doing a VA loan, they'll know if it's taking 2.5 weeks to get your appraisal back. I don't know that because I don't do loans and I don't deal with the appraisers. So I always say, great guys, they give me a pre-approval and I say to the lender, thank you for the pre-approval. Before I write an offer, do you have a specific time frames for your loan, contingency, and your close of escrow? So there's 3 time frames: appraisal, loan, and close of escrow. Those are those time frames that we need the lender to tell us, okay? Because it matters. He's the one, because there's agents like me that you put close of escrow, 30 days. And then all of a sudden something happens on your end and you want a 15-day extension. I'm one of those listing agents that'll charge you $100 per day because I want that lender to speed up the process and put us at the top. And guess what? He'll figure out in 2 or 3 days because I don't want to have to wait. Not always. I don't always do that. That's if there's been a lot of hiccups and everything's been falling apart. But sometimes we need it. There's been holidays in there, like right around Christmas and New Year's, the bank shut down, the title company shut down, and you're like, okay, so it should only take 28 to 30 days to close, but let's ask for 40. And then I'll put in when I'm submitting the offer, I ask for 40 days because we have a couple of days in there because of holidays. Everybody understands that. But if you're going to give me a headache and my seller a headache, I'm going to make sure you guys are going to get it done. And the only way to get it done is when you hit somebody in the pocket. It seems to work every time. But I don't urge you to do that. Call me before you want to do something crazy like that. Because you got to feel it out. It's not always everybody's fault. There's an emergency and the lender was in the hospital. Okay, God, give him a week. Is he out? Okay, great. Okay, so he'll get back to it. Most everybody has some kind of an assistant that could pick up the pieces, but it's not going to go smoothly. So I'd rather wait the week and let him. But there's things that can be done, and why I tell you that is because everything is done differently, guys. You are all independent contractors, so it's however you want to run your business. We are here to guide you in what the standards are and how not to do anything fraudulent or illegal, but, All right, so then cash purchase, and if you're putting it in there, within how many business days of acceptance does buyer agree to provide written evidence from a bona fide financial institution? I would prefer as a listing agent to see done in there, because I don't want to present to my seller an offer that doesn't have a proof of funds or pre-approval letter. That's like, hey, this is what we want to offer, but show me that you can afford it. Otherwise, I'm not, and even if they say within 2 business days, within 2 business days, I say, you know what? We're not accepting an offer until you provide it. So get it right now, and in 2 business days, if the property is still here, we'll accept it. But treat your proof of funds, when you're cash people, treat that proof of funds just like a pre-approval letter. That's what it is. It's proof that you can purchase the property. So, with that, sale of the property is or is not contingent on the sale of another home. So if your buyers have to sell their home in order to get the funds out of those to buy another one, that's a contingency. That means they can't buy this one without selling that one. So that's a contingency, and that's a whole other ballgame. And if you ever run into that, which you will, that's when you need to come talk to us, because that's a little bit extra, and you have to provide the proof of like that it's under contract and all this other paperwork. Okay. Fixtures or personal property. So the following items will be transferred free of liens with the sale, and then you list everything. I like to put in there all items included on this MLS, and I put the MLS number and the date and time that I've printed it out. So everybody look up here. So when you are printing these forms out to show your buyers, I like to print them out as close to the time I'm taking them out, within an hour to 5 hours prior. Don't print this out today and then show them on, what's today, Monday? Don't show them on Wednesday. Because at any point, that listing agent might change. Hey, you guys decide you want to take your refrigerator and washer dryer? Okay. But in the form you printed out says it's there, and then they're still living in the home, and so you're like, look at all the washer, dryer, refrigerator, and then when they go to leave, you're